So quick intro for me. My name is Sam Cooper-Gray. I work for HSBC. As with many people in the room, I'm wearing more than one hat. Hat number one is I look after our small business strategy for HSBC Group, which is really interesting. We look after over 1 million customers around the world who run small businesses, and they are the most interesting businesses in the world. And I've worked with some big corporates, and I can tell you now, small business is much more interesting. I also look after our female client strategy. I have an absolute passion for supporting women in business. We make such a difference. The more women we have running businesses, the better we know economies are. A little number that will help you to give that some meaning. If women, so 19% of businesses in the UK are run by women. If men and women ran businesses at the same rate in the UK, we'd add £250 billion. 250 billion, £250 billion to the UK economy. And given growth is the focus at the moment, I think we could all do with that. We run a number of programs. If you are a woman in business and interested in getting more connected with the business community, we run a women's business growth initiative. We are aiming to get £250 billion of cash out the door in bank funding to women in the next 12 months. This is the bit of my job I really enjoy. Strategy's fine, but this is really good fun. Today, we're really lucky to have 3 really interesting entrepreneurs with us who are going to tell us a little bit about their journey. So if I can invite Kim Palmer up on stage from Clementine. Welcome, Kim. Poppy from Poppy's Funerals. There she is. And Catherine from Doqit. These 3 women are fabulous. Yeah, please do give them a round of applause. Should have one more microphone. So what we're going to do now is just have a little chat with these 3 fabulous ladies about the businesses they run, why they did it, and similar to what Sarah was asking Emma, kind of how did you take it from an idea to doing it and running a business, and what does that journey look like? So I'm going to kick off with asking each of them to just tell you a little bit about their journey and why they do what they do. So, Kim, if I can come to you first.
Good afternoon, everybody. So maybe I'll just start with what my business is, and then I'll get into why on earth I decided to do that. So it's called Clementine, and we have a pretty big, bold vision or mission, whatever you want to call it, which is deeply ingrained in my mission as well, to create a world where every woman believes that she can do anything she puts her mind to. Okay? Imagine, just for a moment, a world where every woman woke up in the morning and believed that what was in front of her, she could do. What I'm not saying is we can do everything. That's absolutely not our mission. It's just to, we're not born thinking that we can't do stuff. We're like sponges. That's the problem. And the world, it happens around us, and we get stressed and anxious, and somewhere along the way, sometimes we might lose our self-belief, can't sleep, all that kind of stuff. So that's our mission. We have a very, very simple way of trying to solve that, and that is through Clementine apps. So please download it. And we use a technique called cognitive hypnotherapy, which is incredibly transformative in shifting your mindset from believing that you can't do something to believing that you can. So that's kind of what we do. Why did I do that? I actually used to have a normal job. I was a strategy director working in advertising, but I was deeply unhappy. So I actually had a mental health breakdown. Sometimes it makes me feel a bit, brings back memories. And it was very, very dark for about 5 years. I literally, thinking about coming to speak at something like this was so far beyond me. And my way through that, I tried many, many, many different things, but cognitive hypnotherapy was the thing that helped me rewire my brain to believe that I could actually change my whole career, build an app, etc. So that's a very short version. Poke me if I keep talking too much.
No, thank you, Kim. And just a little shout out to Clementine. Kim and I met a really long time ago, and she was very early in her journey, and I've been a massive advocate. I haven't slept well this week. and I forgot to use Clementine. Last night, I had no more than 3 hours sleep this week. Last night, I realised that was not sustainable. And I had my phone. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do what I should have done when I wake up in the middle of the night and use the app. And I had 9 hours sleep last night. Yay. So I could absolutely say that it is a fantastic app. Poppy, over to you. Can you tell us a little about your journey and kind of why you do what you do?
So I'm a funeral director. I set up Poppy's 12 years ago, and Poppy's exists to bring outstanding service and care to our living clients and also our dead clients in a sector that is completely unregulated and where standards are low. So feels like there's an expose every week at the moment, showing anything from manipulative sales techniques to just really poor care in the mortuary. No one in my family has done anything like this. So I grew up in a family, and my mum was a social worker and my dad was a teacher, and my first career was actually in the art world. I worked in the auction houses, which was unbelievable fun. But I track why am I doing this now? It's because every day when I came home from school, the conversations around the table were like, what are you doing to help? You know, and that's what drives me now, is that sense of, it would be great to make a load of money. You know, who wouldn't want to have a load of money? But actually, that's not what drives me. What drives me is like, when someone dies and you're in crisis, I want you to have the very, very best care and the very best people by your side. So we have a shop in East Sheen. We're on the High Street, a big sort of Dahlia yellow shop. And we have a headquarters in Tooting where we care for people who've died. And we are opening another shop in Wimbledon in the next 6 to 12 months. So thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about why you did
Why?
the shift?
So I think it's back to the upbringing thing. I don't know if it's similar for other people, but it felt I got into the art world because it was fun, and it felt, I don't know if it's like the quarter life crisis thing. I was in my late 20s. It suddenly felt like the meaning, purpose, foundational piece was missing. There was all this like fizzy fluff at the top. I remember going for an interview for a job, and the guy was like, "What do you see yourself doing in 10 years?" And it was such a strong voice in my head, like, not being here. You know, which I knew I shouldn't say out loud. So for a while, I kind of funneled that purpose elsewhere. So I trained as a Samaritan. I became a volunteer at my local hospice. And they just got that moment in my life where I felt like, this is ridiculous. I'm kind of doing the stuff that matters in the shadows. I know it's like, how do you become an undertaker? I didn't go to a bad funeral or anything. I was looking. I don't really believe in the light bulb moment, or that's not how my brain works. For me, it was much more like the canvas was bare, and the canvas wanted paint, and then I was really open to stuff. So I remember there were 3 exposés on the funeral sector within 6 months, just showing appalling standards of care, and it just lit this match of rage. And I think that, like, I don't know that I do suffer from imposter syndrome, and it's not because I'm really confident. It's because it's not about me. It's about the cause and what I'm trying to do. And so I don't have to be confident. What I have to do is make things better for people, and I can do that every day.
Brilliant, thank you. I got told the other day something great about imposter syndrome, which is reframe it in your head as a healthy attitude that you don't know everything. And I've decided to stick with that. Catherine, if we can come to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Ann. I'm the founder of doqit. And my mission is to simplify life administration. So that's the day-to-day paperwork and information that we have. So why do I want to simplify it? Because we have information everywhere today, because it comes to us in paper format, email attachments, apps, platforms, and the net result of that is, believe it or not, on average, we're spending 32 hours every month just trying to stay on top. Emma's nodding, yeah. 32 hours every month just trying to stay on top of it. The average family is leaking £120 each month, and that's on things like insurance rollovers because we've not caught it, late payment fines, and the subscription economy. How many people have signed up for free trials and all of a sudden you've got 120 quid coming out your account that you didn't expect. And over 50% of people in the UK alone are suffering stress as a result of the overwhelm. So why me? Why am I doing it? It was something I became aware of when I was going through a divorce, and my daughter Chloe, who's got complex additional needs, was going through her medical diagnosis. And I found myself literally drowning in a sea of paperwork. I didn't know what pensions I had. I didn't know where the insurance information was. And this was quite some time ago. So I created this library of lever arch files. But as time moved on, the divorce was behind me, but Chloe's diagnosis was unfolding even more. I just couldn't stay into it. I couldn't find anything. 3 years in the bounds. I paid my tax return late, which is a sole parent. I could ill afford. And I thought, right, there has to be something out there that can help. There was tons of apps. And there was loads of productivity, merge your calendars, but there was nothing simple. Everything was really complicated. Everything wanted to do more, was trying to sell me things. So I spoke to some people and said, do you know, have you heard of it? And they were like, no, but let me tell you about the time this happened. And I thought, someone is going to crack this problem. Why not me? And I started.
So that takes us, perfect ending, as if we planned this. So that takes us to, and this is a question that we asked Emma as well, so how do you go from having that idea to doing? Because there'll be lots of people in the room who've got some great ideas, maybe even a side hustle, so they're doing it tiny, they're doing stuff off the side of their desk, but how do you take that and turn it into something? So if we stay with you, Catherine, how did you go, why not me, to, oh, it is me?
So, well, the first thing I had to find out was it a Catherine Ann problem, or was it a real problem that people had? So I spoke to tons of people, and the interesting thing was every woman I spoke to went, oh God, yeah. And quite a lot of men went, no, it's not a problem for me at all. And it was like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Ask your wife. So it was by doing that. But at the time, so when I had this initial light bulb moment, it was pre-COVID. And there was two things there. There wasn't the same trust in technology. And, people were like, yeah, to do something that was an app, that sounds quite good, but can I trust it? Would people use it? So there was a lot of questions around it. So what I kept doing during that time, that was the sort of early years, if you like, was I just kept researching, speaking to people, gathering stories, gathering evidence that I knew that I needed to back my idea, to give me the confidence to move from writing a ridiculous business plan of gazillion pages through to actually taking action.
Brilliant, thank you. Poppy, how did you go from, I've got my blank canvas, I've put some paint on it, I've read some articles, I run a funeral directors.
Yeah, so I guess it really depends on some practical questions, like how much money do you need to start the business? I think some businesses just do need to go really fast at the beginning in order to make progress. But I guess for me, it was like a massive brain stretch of thinking, okay, death and dying in this country is a huge mess, to I'd be an undertaker. Full disclosure, I'd never seen a dead person before. This was new. And so for me, and I think this might resonate with some people, what's that song in Frozen 2? I've got young children. Is it like, do the next right thing? Is it? And it was really like, okay, I'm going to call 5 local funeral directors. I'm going to see who's the best in London, and I'm going to see if they'll let me spend a day in the mortuary. And I'm just going to call or email them. And weirdly, most of them said yes. I guess because they felt like, we don't get this question very often, and you're a young woman, and yeah, this could be interesting. And so so I never, I think, so deep down inside me, I'm a really ambitious person. But that is, I know, because in Monopoly, I used to crush my brother with the hotels on Mayfair and Park Lane. But that's really far down. The spongy bit above is can be nervous and unconfident and cares hugely about people and doesn't ever want to grow, say, in the wrong way. So I really had to do something which remains key for me 13 years later, which is I've got the long-term vision, which is I know we're capable of this, but today I just have to do this. And for me, it's that moving between mind states. So I literally, my cousin was a doctor at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. I asked if she could get in touch with the mortuary. I spent a day in the hospital mortuary. I found out that the Royal Undertakers are in North London. I spent a month in the mortuary with them. you know, just that. And actually that was really interesting because the thing that really fueled me was like how much bad stuff I saw, you know, that sense of, yeah, I'm here to learn some stuff, but I'm also here to think, okay, I could do better than this, which again, I think builds your confidence in realizing, yeah, it isn't out there, so I might as well just get on with it.
And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, I can do better than this, I think is a very common theme. Kim?
So it's, again, worthwhile explaining when I started the business, which was a long time ago, actually. It was 2017. Okay, so I was still working, and I was doing some coaching, actually, paying to do some coaching at work. And part of that was actually about trying to become a more senior person at this business. And I quickly realized in this coaching that actually that path was no longer my path, that actually being in, you know, that world was part of one of the reasons why I'd had a mental health breakdown. So I had a light bulb moment. And I had always had deep inside of me this feeling of entrepreneurship. Like when I was younger, I was always like selling my Coke, like have a sip of Coke for 10p or, you know, 10 cents, 'cause I'm from New Zealand, stuff like that. And my whole life, genuinely, everybody always said to me, you should start a business. But I had this thing in my head that always said, it wasn't that you weren't good enough, it was that you don't have a good enough idea. That was the thing that I had a block, like a mental block. But when I started doing the coaching, I just knew it was like an energy being pulled. I knew that I needed to start a business. So I told everyone, I was like, right, I'm going to tell everyone. That was part of my accountability to myself. I was like, right, I'm just going to tell everyone I'm going to start a business. I've got no idea what it was. But because I was a strategist, I was very good at organizing my brain. I gave myself 3 months. So I said, okay, in 3 months, just sit in all the problems, open your mind and look around you and see what problems you could solve in the world. And I had a list. I had literally like a list of 50 problems. But it became apparent quickly there were 3 ideas on that list that I kept kind of, you know, going back to, and then I couldn't stop researching them. And so everything kind of went off the way. And I also happened to work at a really big agency where there were a lot of women. And so I was kind of naturally having these conversations about my own mental health and stuff like that. And I realized very, very quickly that one of the problems that was on my list was actually a problem that pretty much everyone had. And I was like, okay. So then I went into like step 2 of my 3-month process, which was around what's the problem that I actually wanted to solve. Because when you start a business, right, and you're literally going to work, I mean, it's like having a baby, basically. You know, you need to know that is the problem that you're wedded to. And so I just went deep. I went really deep into desktop research. I spoke to about 100 women face to face. I had no solution in my head. I literally had no idea what I was going to build. But I just wanted to talk to them and understand, like, you know, if you spoke to me from the moment you woke up to the moment you went to bed, where are all the pain points in your day? Like, where are you feeling stress? I used to do a lot of customer experience mapping, so I was bringing in all the tools that I used to use at my work. And things started to, like, trends and were coming out, and I was like, okay, this is really interesting. I was almost designing it in my head. So I gave myself 3 months. I wrote a PowerPoint presentation that I didn't share with anybody, and it didn't have the name Clementine. It had some really random name on it. It was Mojo, I think it was. But I pretty much had designed the app. I've got no background in technology, by the way. I literally had no idea what I was doing. But I designed it, and then I was like, I need to just start sharing this with people. I don't know why I had that in my head. I'm neurospicy, so I do overshare. But I was like, I just kind of need to get some micro feedback. Do you know what I mean? Like, not in a really big way. I'm not saying I'm going to launch $1 million company. That wasn't what it was about. And pretty much like what you were saying is every woman was like, I need that. Can I get that? When are you going to build it? Da, 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 da. And so yeah, from like day one of actually saying I'm going to start a business, I launch is quite a strong word actually. I made the app live onto the App Store 9 months later. And I did that all whilst I was working, which was really important for me because I was the main breadwinner and didn't have the luxury of just quitting my job. And actually, and there's another element to that, which is it felt really safe to do it in that way because it was a side hustle. And I was just like having so much fun building it. It was just really fun.
Amazing, thank you. I think there is a very common theme here, I think, of you find the thing and then you work out how to do it. I think that side hustle thing as well is quite common. I think a lot of people do start as a side hustle and then, you know, as you say, maybe it's a bit safer when you start it like that. So one of the things I wanted to ask you all about is funding. So obviously 2 of you are in the tech space. One of you is in probably the least tech space. How did you go about getting funded? So Catherine Ann, maybe if I come to you first.
Fundraising's hard. It's really hard. I was very lucky. I secured 130,000 pre-product, pre-revenue, because I knew, again, I was a single mum, I didn't have the money to build a platform. So I knew I had to go and raise the money. So I created a deck. My background is B2B sales, so I'm not afraid to ask for help and ask for business. So I also managed to secure some letters of intent. I also did an early sign up for direct to customers, so I could evidence that people were prepared to pay. And I pitched to angels. So I secured some angel money, and it was a thing at the time that was called the Boost Fund. I don't know if anyone knew about that, but it was a £50,000 investment where if you were deemed that you had potentially a successful business, there were 36 of us at the time, got the money from, it was an offshore account, which was really helpful. I said we would like to do another raise, but to be honest, it's really hard. It's a full-time job, and my focus is on revenue and growth within the business, so that actually it'll be an easier than what can be 9 months to 12 months of your time, full-time, out there speaking to individuals. Fundraising's hard. Get yourself into revenue as quickly as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim, maybe if I come back to you, I know you've done quite a bit of raising as well.
Yes, so again, it's probably worthwhile explaining. So we have a major investor. They're an impact investor from a family office. I don't know if anyone knows much about that sort of stuff, but for sort of rewind, I think it was about 2019, we'd got to about 50,000 women in the community without spending any money, right? So no marketing, no nothing. But we plateaued, and we were stuck. You know, it was that stuck feeling. I was like, how do we get anywhere? And we're up against massive, Calm, Headspace, who spend millions. I was like, oh God, I don't have any money. And it was just me. And I also hit major burnout because I was still trying to work. I have 2 small children at the time, and I was doing Clementine off the side, but that was the thing that was just bringing me so much joy. So to your point, I knew that we needed money into the business to start scaling, and I knew that wasn't going to come from us. We didn't have any money. So I actually made a very big, bold decision with my husband, which was to quit my job. We gave ourselves a 6-month runway, and literally pull back on everything. That's when I started going grey, because I couldn't afford to get my hair dyed anymore. That was one of the things that had to go, but now I'm embracing it. Anyway, that's not about fundraising. Where was I? So I tried fundraising unsuccessfully on my own, right? I probably met with 5 people. I had a pitch deck, got nowhere. And I quickly realised that was a world with a language, with people who look different. It was literally like going to the most foreign country. That's how I felt. And I was like, oh God, I need some help. And I did, so I got some help. I brought in an introducer, and he happens to be an investor now in the business. He's someone that I call every day if I've got a problem. And he helped me go out and work out first, what kind of money do you want in? Because money can come from lots of different people who all have their own agendas. And we actually had decided that we were going to crowdfund. We'd got accepted onto Cedars. We'd gone down that whole, journey. It's not that easy. But then, luckily enough, got an offer from a family office, and who are still, and it's passive. Sorry, not passive. It's definitely not passive. It's we call it patient capital. So their mission is very aligned with our mission. So whilst we haven't grown as fast as some other tech businesses, we've kind of got a different vision for how we see our growth looking, which is more this way rather than that way. I could probably talk for hours about fundraising. I found it really difficult, and I really enjoyed it when I got the right help and knew how to talk the language and speak the speak and all that kind of stuff.
What a journey, a learning journey that, to go and get seed is learning journey, isn't it?
Can I just say as well, primarily it's harder as a woman to raise funds, and it's even harder if you're a woman of colour. There's only 2% so if you think it's 2 pence in the pound that goes to female-led businesses, which makes it really hard because a lot of the money is coming from white men. That's just how it is right now. So, and that's because a lot of women, at an event you hosted about 2 years ago, there was a lady there said that women didn't realise that they could invest. It's not always about £100,000. Women can invest smaller ticket and get a really good return. So more women supporting women is what, that's the sort of drum that I'm banging along with a lot of other female founders.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We know women tend to invest in women. We also know women are significantly less likely to go bankrupt as well. It's actually really good business because you're really good at running businesses.
Can I just say something? Because when I was trying to raise money, I had that narrative in my head, which was only 2% of women. And that actually put me under so much pressure. I was like, oh, God. But actually, when it came down to it, when I got the right help, for me, this is my personal journey, getting the money was actually quite easy. We had multiple offers. But, I didn't have the right pitch deck. I wasn't speaking the right language. I was talking about what I wanted to hear, not what they wanted to hear. So it is hard, but it's absolutely possible.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. I think we should amplify the positive stories rather than, and it is about navigating the journey, which I think is hard whether you're a man or a woman, I think, to get raising. Poppy, how did you approach getting funded for your business?
So we've never taken any money, and we're 13 years old. I don't say that with pride or shame. I meet people every day who say, well, it could be much bigger now if you had. For me, it was just a personal thing. I'd never done this work before. I wanted to take time to figure out what it would be. And I met so many people in the first few years, you could get to this by this stage. And it was yeah, I still don't really know what it is yet. And I genuinely think it was year 6 that we're doing great work the whole time, but it was year 6 where I thought, okay, I know what this business is and I know what we're here to do. And then I also had 3 children when the business was 3, 5, and 7 years old. And there was another thing there for me of I don't want anyone else driving this. I don't want the pace to be determined by anyone but me. And we're at this really interesting point at Poppy. So I have been through a succession. So I hired a CEO 3 years ago, and I work now as the founder and the chair. And right now we get to call all the shots. And at the same time, we're at that point where what we're capable of is massive, and we probably, if we want to do that before we die, we probably will need to take some money. But I'm super proud that when I handed Poppies over to the CEO, so I put in £5,000 at the beginning, which was my own savings, and I handed over a business with a turnover 1.5 million with £1 million in the bank, because it was this is the fund to grow the business, and we'll get it to where we can get it. So all of that was just through profits that we'd made over 10, 12 years, which
Brilliant.
Worked for us, but would be different for another business.
And I think that's why all 3 of your journeys are so interesting, because I think what it tells us is there's no one way to do it. That depending on what you're doing, where you're doing it, what your priorities are, if it's right for you, it's right. I think the other takeaway is you all kind of went and spoke to other people and learned your trade, for want of a better word, as you navigated that. So we are at time. I've got one very quick answers from everyone, please. The final one, which is biggest learn from your entrepreneurial journey. So Here, Catherine Ann, can I come to you first?
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Perfect. And succinct. I love that. Poppy?
Yeah, I'd say related to that, there's a, like life, it's just a series of phases. So the really painful ones won't last too long, and the really great ones won't last either. So just, yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
So mine is around trusting your intuition. So I've had so much advice, and I often put people up on pedestals and think that they know more than me, but no one knows your business more than you do. And so I wish that there's some things that I hadn't done because I didn't trust my intuition. So I think stick in your lane, do your thing, know when to shut out the noise, go for it.
Perfect. Thank you, all three of you. Kim's story is so interesting, and I'm very biased because my side hustle is a podcast called Beginner's Guide to Being a Grown-Up, and she actually did the recording last week. It's not gone live yet, but her story is really, really interesting. So when it goes live, please do have a listen, because her longer story and her journey is a fascinating one. Thank you to all three of you today. It's been really interesting, so thank you.